I did it! I made it back from LA with PoE 2 footage, and it's time to dig into it. The first question, is this game still PoE? And the answer is yes, it is. Which we see from the very beginning. Now, you start by on like a noose thing, you're about to get hanged. You make it out of there. The executioner fails to execute you. And of course, what that means is that I think we jump into the sea and then we wash up on the shore. Aha, PoE once again. Exiled to the beach. Familiar sight. There's a weapon waiting for us and a zombie. Smack it, pick up the weapon. And now it's time for the first big choice of the game. Would you like to play WASD or would you like to play with the mouse? I chose WASD. I didn't actually play with the mouse while I was there, but I did, however, watch Siggy recently with some of his gameplay. And what I can tell you is that it works. But so the thing is with the Ranger and with a lot of new move stuff you can do in PoE is you can move while shooting, move while attacking, those kind of things. So you would click away, like you would shoot and then click, and it would shoot while you would move towards the area that you clicked. It seemed a little odd. However, I was playing with WASD, and what I can tell you is it was great. It was awesome. It feels intuitive, dynamic, like it gives you that dynamic feel that you're looking for like it's one of the things they've been trying to sell us is that we want dynamic gameplay, and you're moving, dodging, weaving, shooting. It feels good. It feels intuitive. Now, one thing to note though is that we weren't able to change our keybinds, which means that we had QE12345TR, which is right next to WASD. So as you can probably guess, this was kind of how you end up playing. Like you're trying to like which of course is not ideal. So definitely looking forward to trying this where I can put my own keybinds. I will talk a little bit later, I will leave that for now, about some thoughts I have on the WASD, how we can bring that forward. But for now, I would just say that the moveset was really nice to play on. It felt intuitive, even though it was a little cramped and a little hard at times to play. But we have more buttons on the mouse that could have been used, so on and so forth. Flasks did feel hard to manage because of this. It is what it is. Something that you need to think about when you change your moveset and such is that some things will feel a little odd. Now, when you're in a town, which we enter, right, let me just set the scene. So we go through the scene, like the zone, and we pick up our gems just so we do in PoE 1, and then we fight the Miller, which is basically Hillock. You fight him, he had some like cool moveset, you know, big slam in front of him, you move around him, kill off his pack, and you enter the town. In town, you have like your regular vendors. It feels like PoE, just like the first town in PoE. Music is great and all of that. And you set yourself on the adventure. You know, you go into the muddy wastes and the forest and all that, and you're good to go. There's the vendors. There's a gambler. There's a place to sell and disenchant your items. You sell items to get gold. You disenchant to get crafting materials. Now, they're pretty stingy. With crafting materials, at least, a blue is 1 shard, you need 20, like transmute shard, and it's the same thing for elks with rares. You need 20, sell 20 rares. It's a bit much. I'm not the biggest fan of that particularly. I never got more than 1 shard. In terms of the moveset, one thing in town that you will find yourself doing with this is that you will click on a vendor and nothing will happen because you're WASDing. Because you actually have to move your character to the vendor. So multiple times I had myself enter the town, I wanted to click the well to go and drink it, and my character would move, and I would be like, wait, why am I not moving? Oh, right, click WASD and move over. And then, so what I would like to see would probably be an interact key that made you click the key and it moves you and interacts with the object. That could also be for looting, so you didn't always have to just WASD over there. Especially when you're out and about as well. You're gonna have 1 key for shooting as well, and so you can't actually use it for moving. So that's something to consider. Out in the big world, what do we get? What do we see? You enter the big world, and the world is, I mean, it is big and dangerous, lots of variety. So the zones in PoE 2 are big. There are lots of monsters. You often feel like you get swarmed. it is difficult to stay alive. So once you have all these things coming at you and you're dodging and you're weaving, I mean, honestly, it's very challenging at first. I will be honest. You do not have a lot of life. They hit really hard. And if they catch up to you and surround you, you can get stuck. Because not everything is something you can roll through. You do have your dodge roll, which is another new thing that they've added, which is the dodge roll, which allows you to essentially roll your character with a little bit of extra speed at the start, and then it takes a little while to stand up. Now, if you were to dodge roll instead of moving, you will be moving at the same speed. Like if you were traversing with dodge roll, you would go at the same speed. It does give you some iframes, but I would not recommend doing this, as you are going to essentially stop and slow down, and then things will surround you and kill you. So you need to be careful with your dodge rolls. Now, going through these zones, you will find lots of different challenges. You will find monsters that will leap to you, monsters that will shoot you, monsters that will gang up on you, surround you. You will have monsters hiding in tents, trying to come out and blow you up because they're on fire and ready to explode. You will have monsters that empower other monsters. They will spew blood spears at you and empower their blood-filled, pustuled small beings, which will then kill you. There is a large variety of things in PoE 2 that'll try to kill you, and that is really fun. I remember someone saying that whether or not we needed all this variety or we would just want the game or whatever, but I welcome the variety in content, in biomes, environment, in enemy models, and in different variety of the ways the game tries to get to you and murder you. It's really refreshing. It also leaves you dropped. The amount of times you enter a zone and you're like, I can't believe they made this place look this good. And this, I don't even know. I'm running out of words for praise, because I'm just really impressed with the amount of variety that they managed to add to the game. But that being said, the zones, oh my lord, they can be so big. I don't know if I think the size of the zones is particularly good or bad. I think it's a mix of both. It definitely makes it so that once you start reaching the end, you really don't want to die. Now, the reason why you really don't want to die is that if you die, the zone resets and you have to run it all over, and it also respawns everything, and giving the difficulty of the whole thing, it sucks. Let's just put it that way. It kind of sucks. Now, I'm not entirely against it. I don't know. It's definitely something I either need to get used to or they need to make some changes to. Something I would like to see change, though, is that if you die on a boss as you kill it, that it does not reset the zone somehow. As what happens in this instance is that it actually just removes all the loot because you're in a new instance. So, not a perfect system, but I do actually like the fact that it resets the entire boss if you die. Because you have to then learn the fight, and the boss fights are something else. Which is the first thing I want to show you, and I want to add some commentary while showing you these boss fights and some of the biomes with some added commentary. Now, the first boss I would like to show you is the Executioner. We made it back. We're, like we did in the past, on a good old vengeance murdering spree, as the Exiles obviously are, and we now face the Executioner. Now, the first thing, boom, we die. Now, the first thing, that was a good time to use the dodge roll. The fights are generally very well telegraphed. They are hard. They have lots of different movesets. They're very unique to each other, like distinct from each other. Obviously, you will find some overlap. Not everything can be the same. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there are two, sometimes you're on a platform, sometimes there are projectiles flying around you. This time, the Executioner, big bad guy, big swings, big axe, big slams and leaps and whatnot. Here is a fight where I definitely needed to remember that circling the boss is generally speaking the best you can do. Now, there's probably times where it's not. One thing that the bosses will do, because what GGG has learned is that if you just circle the boss while you're move strafing, if the boss would always just charge up an attack and firing it exactly where you were, you would always dodge it. So there is a level of aiming and like aimbotting that these guys will do from certain attacks. As you can see there was one of them. Very, very scary. I barely survived it this time. That attack actually one-shot me the last 4 times I did this fight. This is one of the fights I died the most on. I wasn't really paying too much attention. I don't know why. And as you can see, my damage at this point is not that great. My mana is okay because I decided 5 mana potion is fine. The ranger has can regen life potions over time with one of their nodes, so I thought I'll just have extra mana potions and we will be fine. And there we go. Got him. Actually, before we move on, I want to show you a fun little biome. Now, the little biome I wanted to show you was the Valley of the Titans. Now, the Valley of the Titans is a particular fun one to me. I don't know if it is inspired by it or not, but as you can see on the screen, there are certain worms jumping up from the sands. And I believe they're called dune lurkers. So I thought that was a fun tidbit to show you guys. As this zone is full of them. I don't know if they got their inspiration from Dune, but I hope they did. They are really scary, as they can jump up in packs and all land on you if you don't take care of them and if you keep kiting. There's all sorts of things here. Enemies that ball up and look like rocks and sand. It is obviously, I forget what it's called. Something Titans. Right, the realm of the Titans. The something. And of course we will have giant skeletons. This is also the point I should mention where we actually start to feel somewhat powerful. We have, I say that as I take a huge amount of damage, but we start to get actual good clear speed here. At this point I have actually acquired Herald of Thunder, which is something that as you shock enemies, you build up stacks, and once you hit, I think once you've hit 5 stacks of shock, it then releases into a giant AoE and you just blow up packs. So every now and then you will see me just blowing up packs. It's the Herald of Thunder. Then we have like the LMP on the lightning arrow, and it clears up really nicely, especially if you have the lightning rods on the ground. It feels really good. Now this is just one of many of the really interesting biomes. I'll take you to another one. Here we have gone through the Valley of the Titans, which was the previous zone, and we're in the Titans Grotto. Now, as you can see here, the map is revealed, because we have been here quite a few times before. Now, these little dudes, not only do they shoot you from afar, but they also explode if they go near to you. Now, this area actually has multiple types of exploders. It is definitely not something we are missing out on in PoE 2. Here we have overlapping AoE spiders that block you. They are absolutely terrifying, but it's okay because the area we're fighting in is absolutely gorgeous. As you can see down at the sides of all of these, what do you even call them? Pillars and bridges. We see down into the foggy depths. It's honestly amazing the amount of environment detail they've managed to get here. Now, one of the things you also see is that the whole map is revealed. I don't know if this is going to be a main stay in PoE 2, but the thing is, the way they've designed it is that whenever you die and you reset, you make the same instance. Now, it's completely reset, but the layout is the same, so everything is revealed. It feels a little odd, though. I'm not sure if I'm totally sold on this. Now, it makes sense, though, because if you're given the exact same layout, then it would also feel weird if you didn't know where you'd already been. So I don't know if the best thing here is to make the same layout or just make a new one and you go again. I think I would rather just make a new one and go again. Notice like some of the sides here on the rocks with the big giant faces of the Titans. It looks really, really cool. Now, we are about to face one of my favorite little bosses, which is... I don't actually know his name. He's probably called Titan or something. Yeah, here we go. We reset. Also, by the way, those reset points fill up all your mana flasks. So you always have full flasks. By the way, here he comes. So this is Meat, the Colossus. Or kind of Kitava. Stabs you, very well telegraphed. At this point, as you can see, we got some big damage. Big damage there. So what we're doing is we're throwing down a bunch of... Oh, this is Kitava. He is throwing things at us. He is sweeping us. He's got a laser eye. This guy has it all. Very cool. Big damage again. So the reason why we do big damage here is that we are using the... I actually forgot I died there. That was a scary attack. You are supposed to stand behind the sword in the middle. Now that is definitely something where it's like hardcore is going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of like mechanics where you absolutely want to do what's being shown to you. But that also means you need to pay attention. Now that thing right there is the multi-shot or the barrage, which loads up 3 arrows and then blasts forward. Now with LMP, I feel like there's a bit of a weird interaction, but let's not focus on that. Let's just... All I can say is that we can have multiple lightning arrows hitting in sequence on the lightning rods on the ground, and it does big damage. I know there were some other builds people made that absolutely destroyed everything, even better than this. But what I wanted to show with this as well is that, as you can see here in Act 2 already, we are starting to get some real damage on the bosses. So the worry that everything is going to be slow and like you're just left clicking all the time and all that, no, there's like lots of combos. You can get lots of damage. Actually, before moving on, I do want to briefly touch on the notion of will we get to Zoom. As you could see here, we started to really ramp our damage. LMP, all sorts of things. I only have 1 support so far. Now, I think we can expect, as we get more and more supports, the game will definitely ramp up over time. I don't think we need to worry about PoE 2 being slow. Yes, the movement speed, the movement and stuff might be more methodical, but we're gonna have good damage, we're gonna have dynamic and fun movement. We might not reach like 800 movement speed, but I have used movement skills and you can actually get them to start moving quite fast. And then as your own movement speed goes up, it'll feel like it feels like we're moving at the right pace. We would obviously like to move a little faster, but given the challenge the game throws at us, it's also dangerous to run into enemies. So I have not found that I was necessarily traversing through the world too slowly. As we get better and as we learn how to essentially just beat everything, we want to start skipping, but that comes later. And then that's the natural progression of getting good at games. Then you just want to move to the parts where you're really challenged, right? You can't really get around that. So I do think that the game will really open up as you level up. We're only in Act 2. It's already opened up a lot compared to Act 1. It's going to open up even more in Act 3. It's another thing that people noticed, that they had played Zork at ExileCon, and Zork here in the demo in LA was not as good, and it's because the ExileCon one was level 40. Now some people actually managed to get high level on Zork in LA, and they started finding the right tools, and it actually started becoming pretty good because they had like the mana vortex or whatever, and there's a lot of tools that are needed for the builds to really shine. But that's also a good thing, because that means that as you use all these gems, which there are so many gem slots, it's actually kind of crazy. And I only used, there was like 8 or 9, I don't know. And imagine you can 16 all of those. It's gonna get crazy. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be PoE just as we know it. Lots of ride, lots of fun, lots of craziness. Yes. And then you add the passive tree and whatever else they've cooked up. It's gonna be great. I have no doubt. Now, moving on. The Forsaken Sun is our next encounter. Again, I don't really know much of the lore behind it.
You left a child to die.
But listen to that. The way you are like greeted when you enter these zones, the voice acting, the music, The sounds of all the abilities. It just feels epic. And as you can see, this was at the later parts of the demo, and we actually started doing some real damage, and it felt good. So we clean it up, and we move on into the chambers, which, I mean, this is just a D2 moment for me right here. You ignite the goddess.
Fire cleanses the past so that the future can grow.
And you can just feel like the light coming in. Okay, maybe not light coming in here, but it's like the ambience, the feel, it's there. It's so good, so good. And I think that's like probably also one of my main takeaways is that the feel of the game, it's there. The environments, the zones, it's coming together. It really feels like this could be one of the, like, this is the introduction to a great game as a single player experience as well. I have not delved too much into the story, but I mean, this is it. Now, with that being said, let's move back a bit and just have a few closing thoughts. Now, in Act 1 and Act 2, the pacing seems a little off so far. Now, as we talked about, it starts out very, very, very difficult. You really feel that it's a very oppressive game. The game is out to kill you, which is fine. However, you have very limited tools. So, first thing that really stood out to me was the fact that you only pick one skill at a time, and they don't come that fast. And you kind of want to pick an archetype. And when you're locked into that archetype, switching to the other archetype is difficult. So I would like to see that they will give us a way to either change up our skill gems, or give us more, or give us an opportunity to buy them from the vendor. I think it's good that they keep it a little simpler early on, because it can be very daunting being presented with 27 skill gems or whatever it does in PoE. However, I think that the ability to try more things, to find the things that fit, and especially if you took the wrong combo gem, you need to be able to find the combo gem that fit and use it. I don't know if we need more supports. I mean, supports are fun and strong. I didn't feel like I needed it in terms of power, so that's okay. In terms of loot, now, Jonathan recently, in the reveal for the recent leak, they also talked about PoE 2, and he spoke about the variance in weapons and the variance in power the players had. Now, this is actually a problem they had in PoE 1 like 11, 12 years ago. Now, the problem here is that the variance in weapons dictates how much damage your like attack-based skills do. Now, an early white weapon that's not been upgraded into a higher tier is really weak compared to a spell that keeps leveling up. Now, even if you find another weapon that even has a magic or a rare roll on it, it can miss the roll and not give you any damage at all. And it might take you like an hour of play before you really find a good upgrade. And doing that times, it feels miserable. The way we fixed this, and this was specifically for racing in PoE 1, was that we added in vendor recipes to add some determinism. Now, I don't think we should have vendor recipes in PoE 2. Now, what I would like to see is drops that reflected more the character that you started on. So you were guaranteed a certain set of items, like you would always get, if you're playing a melee character, you'd always get some melee weapons with at least magic or rare rolls. And the same thing for rangers. For every class, that should be the case early on. You should definitely be presented with the opportunity to equip some gear, to try it on, and to look at other pieces, which is better. So we can start learning about the game, but also so we have the tools that we need. Now, furthermore, gold is too limited in the early stages. You cannot, if you don't find the thing you need, you should be able to buy it from the vendor. You're getting stacks of 1 to 2 gold, but you need hundreds to buy the first thing from the vendor. And the vendor I had didn't even have a bow at all throughout the entirety of Act 1. So definitely something to look at there. So I would say uncut gems. There's too little options to tinker around with skill variations and skill combinations. Too little gold, and you don't have enough opportunities to upgrade the key pieces of gear that you need early on. But all of this are things that are very easy to fix. So this doesn't really concern me much for the future of PoE 2. This is all well and good. Now, something that might concern me a little bit about PoE 2 would be their approach to difficulty and how much you need to suffer, and whether or not you need to rerun zones again and again and again. Now, I'm going to introduce a concept here where we talk about fatigue. And I think it's something that also really defines PoE 1's good and bad leagues, is that the level of fatigue that the game poses on the player. Now, if you constantly feel fatigued and you feel like you're being kind of pushed, it's like, oh my god, it's just, I'm constantly engaging. I'm constantly like being met with challenges that I have to think about, I have to engage with, and it's like I'm almost dying all the time. You run out of steam. And it's hard to be that engaged in something and then also think about complex things that the game throws at you. And I think right now the game is too fatiguing, especially at the start. So that's something to look at. Because you should have moments where you kind of feel like, oh, it's a bit of a breeze right now. It started to happen a little bit in Act 2, but I think that was a little bit too late. And even then, it was still hard. You definitely want to have moments where you like kind of can just relax and feel good and feel like we did, and feel like you're like kind of winning a bit. You should be able to win a bit more. Okay. On that note as well, I think certain skills needs to be better. And what I mean by that is that, so whenever you block and there's a lot of monsters close to you, removing the block means that they start hitting you, and whenever you make an action that is intuitively correct in terms of what the game is showing you, you should also be rewarded for making that action. So if you block, there should be a way to essentially, when they hit you, when you block something, you get an opportunity to strike back. The same thing when you want to like Ice Nova and freeze everything. If there's really fast monsters coming close in, it can't be that the Ice Nova takes like to come out like forever and you die before it even comes out, or you don't have enough time to make an opportunity attack within that space where it's like, okay, I now froze everything as I'm supposed to, now I also want to capitalize on it and not just gonna run over. Because what the game often ends up being is that you are constantly moving backwards, trying to hold them off and kind of whittle them down and killing them, where it would be better for dynamic gameplay to like leap in, vault over, freeze, and then poof, roll them up, right? That kind of playstyle is what we want. We want the engaging part, the dynamic part, and all that. And that means that some of the, especially utility skills, need to feel really impactful. That doesn't mean the game is not supposed to be difficult, because if you do this and you don't finish up everything, or you pull another pact while you're not available, like when you don't have that combo available, you might get run over. And that's kind of the push-pull, like that's where the danger is. Like, do I take this opportunity to do all this? So there's some balance there that's not quite on point. Now, I hope that they would go more in the allowing you for the more dynamic play rather than the constant backing off and the constant like super pressure where the slightest mistake and you die. That's too much. The last thing I want to talk about here is WASD. Now, WASD is absolutely the innovation of PoE 2. I think Neverson said it best. I don't have an exact quote here, but it would be in the best interest of the game to call any obsolete mechanic standing in the way of WASD and make room for the superior, for this new superior moveset. Now, what would be standing in its way would be something like flasks, like having 5 flasks, managing those while you're also managing your movement, while they have now introduced so many more active gems. Like, how many things can you really do at the same time? You want to dodge, you want to be constantly moving, you want to use your movement skill, you want to use your 4 to 5 active abilities. I mean, the amount of like complexity in how you engage with the battlefield is really high. And maybe it's time to look at flasks and maybe consolidating them, maybe making them a little bit easier. Automation comes to mind. Stuff like that is something that needs to be looked at, I think, to make room for the emergence of this new playstyle that I believe is better. I'm really happy they introduced WASD, and I'm really happy they're taking their time to really get it into the game in the best way they can. Because I do believe this is also one of the reasons why the game is delayed and the beta is delayed until at least December. We don't know or like that around Christmas. We don't know if it's longer than that. Hopefully not. But yeah, with that, with everything being said, I absolutely love what they're doing with PoE 2. There's a lot to work on, but I love what they're doing on the grand scheme. If I see their vision, I like it. I like it. In the grand scheme of things. Oh, one more thing. Flash charges are bad, and that's something they should be improved. That should be improved as well. But yeah, outside of that, can't wait to play the actual game. I hope I get into the alpha. If not, I'll just have to wait like everyone else. Okay, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if I can do it, you can too.